Everyone, welcome back to a new post today, and we have been hearing voices of statehood from Ladakh, the jewel in the crown of India. So there were 4 demands that Ladakh placed to the Ministry of Home Affairs, and even promises were given by the existing BJP government in the manifesto as early as in 2019 elections itself. Let's have a quick review of why exactly is Ladakh asking for 6th schedule status and also for statehood. So we also recently it was Sonam Wangchuk, a celebrated environmentalist, who decided to sit on a 21-day hunger strike to express the anguish of the Ladakhis. Following a series of talks between the Ladakhi leadership and also the Union Ministry of Home Affairs. Now, the Ladakh leaders approached the Ministry of Home Affairs with 4 demands, that is statehood for Ladakh, number 1. Number 2, inclusion of Ladakh in the 6th schedule of the Indian Constitution. So the 6th schedule consists of the Tripura, Assam, Meghalaya and Mizoram tribal areas. So it wants to be added into the 6th schedule. Setting up of a separate public service commission for Ladakh and also 2 parliamentary seats for Ladakhis. Now, the Ministry of Home Affairs agreed in principle to negotiate the 2 demands of the inclusion of Ladakhi into the 6th schedule and also setting up of a public service commission. But the ministry rejected the statehood and the 6th schedule status. Now, Ladakh, which is a jewel in of India's crown, it is a major tourist hub, attracting many people from all around the world. The snow-clad Himalayas pierce the sky from Ladakh. We have pristine lakes, and the lakes capture the imagination of every travellers, especially the bikers, pilgrims, filmmakers, etc. The mountains and it is a home to huge mountains and valleys. They have unique animals because of the unique geoclimatic conditions there. Like mammals have fluffy coats with superfine underwool, and their blood also has the concentration of high hemoglobin. So Ladakh is also very rich in culture, and it is vibrant. The rural landscape especially is replete with quaint villages which dream of destination travelers and explorers. Also, sustainable living is one of the mantra of this people here. Farmers have carved out agriculture fields from mountainsides to grow hardy crops for subsistence. Similarly, pastoralism is the main the form of vocation there, following the indigenous animals, especially for their wool. And this follows a rotational grazing system, allowing for plants for rejuvenation. So the people live on a sustainable basis. Now, the umbilical cord of Ladakh was severed from Jammu and Kashmir in 2019 when Jammu and Kashmir reorganization bill was passed in the parliament, striking down Article 370 and 35A of the Indian Constitution, which provided a special status to the erstwhile state. The people of Ladakh, especially from Leh, celebrated the status change and rejoiced, as Union territory was a long-standing demand. They said that with the lack of legislature, several people started to grow skeptical. And they thought that this could lead to the dominance of bureaucrats because the union territory is governed from the center. And moreover, without adequate safeguard mechanism, the region might also fall prey to the sharks of the industrial conglomerates looking especially for mining prospects. Now, soon several civil society organizations especially began to deliberate on the demands of the Ladakhis. And the Himalayan Institute of Alternative Ladakh sent out teams to many UTs and states with tribal areas that are governed under the 6th schedule. Slowly, a common consensus started to emerge that Ladakh wanted to be under the 6th schedule. A memorandum by the people of Ladakh was submitted to the Ministry of Home Affairs in this regard, and through the Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Council, listing several demands, especially including it in the 6th schedule status. Subsequently, the Commission for Scheduled Tribes also recommended Ladakh's inclusion into the 6th schedule areas. Following these developments, the ruling party at the center, especially that is Delhi, included safeguards of Ladakh under the 6th schedule at number 3 in its election manifesto as early as in 2019. It also said that 6th schedule status was the top priority for the BJP government in the election manifesto, even of the local bodies, especially the Hill Council. But there was a silence after the poll, and the poll promises ended. Anyone who raised the issue was silenced through various other tactics, and in the meantime, the autonomous Hill Councils were undermined, and also their authority got diluted, and the power being weakened as well. Common Ladakhis started to experience the dominance of the bureaucrats who had no connect with them at all, because we know that the union territories are governed by the center through the administrators and the bureaucracy. There is no elected representative unless the UT as a legislative assembly like Puducherry and Delhi. It then dawned upon the people that without a lawmaking apparatus in the UT of Ladakh, especially at the district level, and also democratic rights of the people could not be restored, and they were more threatened than protected. As a result, collective bodies like the Leh Apex Body and the Kargil Democratic Alliance, consisting of socio-religious groups, youth groups and also political groups from various places like Leh and Ladakh, started to mobilize the people, raising awareness among the people about the importance to safeguard their culture, their resources, their land, and especially the people's right under the 6th schedule of the constitution, which simultaneously led to many protests and shutdown in many of the districts of Ladakh. Now, the primary concern is the fragile ecosystem in the region. Tourism has grown leaps and bounds since it was formed as a union territory, the numbers touching almost 500,000 from a meager just 500 in 1974, and the Ladakh was opened after a period of 25 years. The mass tourism now started to put a lot of pressure on the fragile ecosystem. Ladakhi population had already exceeded the natural carrying capacity. Currently, the crops produced in the region are only, can only feed almost 1/3 of the population. Therefore, it needs continuous boosting of supplies from the outside. Villagers are abandoning the agriculture lands in the rural areas because they cannot compete with the businesses who are offering cheap rations and vegetables that are brought from outside the union territory from distant cities. And this vehicular traffic is also leading to black carbon particles settling on the glaciers, leading to rapid decline and melting of the glaciers and lack of water, especially which is for the Ladakhis who mainly depend upon the lakes and the glaciers for their water requirement. Sustainable development prescribes that development projects should start very small, using the locally sourced materials and then scaling up to small increments, especially without overlooking the local participation who know the culture and the nature of Ladakh. More importantly, it calls for local people participation in any plan or any program that has to be implemented, and not overlooking the needs, especially because they understand the natural and the ecological nuances that should have the upper hand in these development projects, as they have been living in the Ladakh under its ecological ecoclimatic region from a long time, and they know the region very well. Unfortunately, none of this criteria now at present is being taken into consideration while enforcing or implementing the development projects in this place. So sustainable development definitely is being overlooked and reduced to a mere paperwork or a paper announcement rather than real implementation. So not only is the human ecology now in this dismal state, but even the natural ecosystems have slowly started to show that they are suffering, giving the low plant productivity in extreme climatic conditions. Wildlife populations are now declining slowly, and there is also the problem of China taking away the grazing lands from Ladakh. Now, although the diversity is relatively high due to Ladakh's location at the boundary between two biogeographical zones, that is the Palearctic and also the Indian Malayan, but the geographically vast Ladakh is definitely a dry desert, and it cannot compensate so many land intensive industries or the expansionist neighbors' interests, especially. Wildlife such as the wild sheep, that is the burial and the uril, the wild yak, the antelopes, which is called as the chiru, or the Tibetan gazelle, inhabiting the hills and also the valleys of the Ladakh, need large ranges which is slowly decreasing. So they are falling short of grazing lands. The same goes with even domestic animals such as the Pashmina goats, also called as the Changtangi. And furthermore, climate change is also impacting the rangelands. Plant productivity is declining a lot due to warming of temperature. There has been studies showing that there is an increase in temperature, especially in the winters, leading to decline in a number of flower species that were found previously on the plants, also with multi-inflorescences as well as the seeds simultaneously. Multiple studies have also come up with declining butterfly population in the alpine meadows of the Himalayas. So these are bio-indicators which indicate that the ecology of Ladakh is in a risk. Now, which this also has a bearing on the pollination and also thus the plant reproduction as well. Now, of all the resources, the most hurted in Ladakh is the water. People depend on the glacial melt for drinking water, for irrigation, energy. Springs are fed by the glaciers. They are drying up, and also the glaciers are retreating atop. This is a result of the pollution that is being increased because of increasing vehicular traffic and also the people especially. Therefore, several wild animals like the burrell and the Ladakhi oriole which converge on the Indus River to quench their thirst. As a result, Indus now, apart from not the regular springs or the lakes in Ladakh, are now emerging as the most important source of water, not only for the people but also for wildlife. Therefore, there is a crisis of water even in Ladakh, and now this is becoming more intense. The water quality of Indus also is being declining due to pollution. Thousands of people, especially mostly the military persons, the tourists, the laborers, camp on the meadows along the river. These camps throw organic waste into the river, which leads to eutrophication, especially, which in turn leads to pollution and explosion of aquatic invertebrates, which in tandem with global warming, depleting the dissolved oxygen of the rivers, therefore making the water unfit for irrigation and also drinking in the downstream areas. So the Snow Leopard Conservation Trust of India and also the Kalpavich organized a 5-day river walk for the Ladakhi students studying in various colleges and universities recently, and the students were overwhelmed with the quantity of the garbage that they got to see on the banks of the river. So people in the communities which consume the fish talk about skin diseases. They have started to talk about skin diseases, let me tell you, and also deformities in the fish such as the snow trout, which was native to Indus. Now these indigenous fishes, mostly herbivorous, are further affected because of the introduction of carnivorous exotic species such as the rainbow trout, because of the increase in the tourist population and also rapid development and growth of tourism in the region. So Ladakhis, especially the urban areas, are looking at vast changes that are happening because of the ecological changes, and this is not only compromise the well-being of the rural areas but also the ecological well-being as well. Now there is a hustle to promote growth in the Ladakh, but this is having its impact, and therefore the people are calling to protect the culture, the ecology, through their demand for inclusion into 6th schedule and also the statehood, so that they can make their own laws to protect the culture, ecology and the environment of the pristine beauty of Ladakh. So there are many ecological problems that are coming up, and one of the causes also their side effects are also being seen so these ecological issues and myriad other issues especially want to be safeguarded by the Ladakhis under the 6th schedule of the constitution. They say that without such protection and without such autonomy, especially by having a state legislature where they can make their own rules, they have their own representatives and they have their own employees also, they cannot protect the ecology or the nature of Ladakh, especially the valleys, the turquoise lakes and also the glaciers which attract people from many places. So the degradation of Ladakh, if it wants to stop, and also if sustainable development wants to come to the people of Ladakh and the rights of the people to be protected rather than being overtaken by outsiders, the demand from the Ladakhis is 6th schedule and they want a statehood. That is, they want to they govern their own selves with their representatives, making their own laws through a state legislature. So this is important. So these are the important points of why exactly the people of Ladakh are demanding a 6th schedule status, more autonomy in the tribal areas of Ladakh, and a statehood that is having their own legislature so that they can formulate their own laws. They have their own power with regard to the state list and the concurrent list, and also they have their own employees through a separate public service commission. These are some of the demands made just not for the sake of it, but there is a lot of background to this, and I hope these few points were really helpful to you all to understand why exactly they are demanding for a 6th schedule and the statehood. And if you did, please do like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to comment at the end of the video, and I shall see you in my next post. Until then, it's very happy learning.